Welcome to Empirically Good. Today we will be looking at the complicated version of hypergeometric deck construction. Whoa!
We are the Roboto. We have come for your greatest game design thinkers.
Really? I'm flattered, but...
No, not you. Your purpose is to tell us where the smart people are.
When I started in game research, the first person I really read was Jesper Juul. That could be a good place to start.
Elaborate.
For me, his early work marks the break between two worlds. The old world, where there were a bunch of isolated thinkers talking about games from different fields, and our modern ludological world, where it is valid to talk about game studies as its own integrated discipline.
Elaborate. Elaborate. Elaborate.
This would be so much easier with a PowerPoint, or perhaps some sort of device that allows you to travel personal timelines, complete with representations of key moments.
We have a device that allows you to travel personal timelines, complete with representations of key moments.
Jesper Juul, or as I call him, the half-real hero, was born in Aarhus, Denmark in 1970. By the way, I'm from the barbarous wastelands of America, so you really shouldn't trust me with how to pronounce his name.
Yes, so my name is Jesper Juul.
Well, there you have it. As a child, he became interested in games, particularly the emerging field of digital games. At the age of 11, he made his first proto-video game, a race game where you moved a cursor around a track as fast as possible. The player would have to run a separate timer and enforce the limits of the track themselves. But this half-formed game is kind of important to understanding his later thoughts about the importance of who or what enforces the rules of a game. Oh, grab his love for early computers like the Commodore 64. That may come in handy. He continues to program throughout his life, but in the 90s, Juul started collecting degrees in the humanities. This duality, a programmer with a literature background, is important to understanding some of his key writing. In the early 2000s, he both received his PhD, specifically in video games, one of the first programs where that was possible, and published his first book, Half Real. We'll definitely want that one later. Since then, the Earl of Emergence has written on casual games and players, the experience of failing in games, indie games, and the indie game community. Oh, and he has a new book coming out soon on the, here it is. I knew we would need that. The Commodore 64. That's a lot of range. To simplify it for you... Oh, hey! Is that a machine that unerringly decides how to categorize a game thinker along 3 axes? There are a lot of different ways to think about games. This grand device will decide if Juul is best thought of as a maker who creates games, a theorist who thinks about games, or an empiricist who makes observations about games. By the way, this particular great machine lumps humanities-based analysis and scientific experimentation into empiricism. Your definition and omnipotent machines may vary. Oh, great machine, render your verdict! Early on you could say he was a pure theorist, I guess. Maybe. But his later work is closer to history or participant observation. Oh, okay. But he also makes games, both small-level hobbyist stuff and commercial products. There it is! Thank you for your wisdom, great machine. It is pure hubris to try and reduce a multifaceted and complex career that is still ongoing down to one briefly explained idea. But that's what we're gonna do. The big idea behind his first book, Half Real, is that games are, half real. That is to say that there is a part of them that is a fantasy, like the story in a book or a film. There's not really a princess in another castle, except she sort of is. If I beat a Mario game and rescue Princess Peach, I really did that. That achievement is no less than if I went to work or ate a ham sandwich. Bowser is a fictional antagonist, but a real obstacle. Is that an important capital I kind of idea? I think it is, and it's still an important way to think about games today. And I know it was hugely important in the past. You see, most people analyzing games before Juul, and some today, come from either a humanities perspective where they are looking at a game using the exact same tools you would use to analyze a novel or film, or they're just focused on the rules and technical parts of the game. The one only sees the fiction, the other only sees the reality. By the power of ludology! If you want to get started with Juul's thoughts, I would recommend picking up Half Real. The book is broken into 3 main segments, appropriately, a section on rules, a section on fiction, and a section that combines the two. It's 20 years old, which is eons in game time, but most of the examples are still relevant. He may be talking about Grand Theft Auto 3 or Zelda Wind Waker, but his points generally stand for their modern equivalents. Juul's innovation was making a more holistic approach explicit. If you only talk about the reality, or the fiction alone, you did not really talk about the game. I should also mention that his writing style is clear and inviting for being an academic work, and that Juul has a real gift for seeing what objections are going to be raised and either owning up to the flaw or explaining the contradiction away. Oh, that reminds me of one other major section of this book. He has a very thorough definition of games that he calls the classic game model. If you liked picking apart the definitions in my What is a Game video, then this one will be a fun challenge. Is that enough for...
Satisfactory, satisfactory, satisfactory.
I could tell you about his incoherent world theory! Ugh. In the early 2000s, Jesper Juul pulled from philosophers, programmers, literary theorists, game developers, and more to help create the modern discipline of game studies. Today, he's still showing his eclectic influences and expanding the field. Thanks for watching Empirically Good. Tune in next time for hopefully not more alien abduction.